I have been following the XDC ecosystem for quite some time, and over the last couple months, we have been watching as a lot of these utility-based projects expand rapidly, and XDC is one that is also doing the same. We have been seeing some pretty large updates around tokenization, around trade finance, stablecoins, you name it. XDC has it, and I'm very excited about this. Now, during this time, we are also seeing some pretty boring and maybe frustrating price action for those that just recently jumped into XDC, or maybe you have been a long-term holder and you're just kind of getting impatient. But I want you guys to understand that the price action that we're seeing right now in the market is just that chop and that downtrend right before altcoins really go crazy. And the reason why I say that is because it's very similar back to like January of 2021, the December, January time. And, again, if you go back to that time, you could see how altcoins were trading against Ethereum and even against Bitcoin. And most of them were just completely chopped. So when we think about that, XDC today is really no different. I feel like, most of the market, it's not just XDC, most of the market is sort of in this chopped point of the cycle where the price action is getting annoying. We're not really seeing much growth. And even on the recent moves here, right? Like, for an example, this 10-cent push that we got, which, by the way, is major resistance on this chart, we didn't even touch close to the highs going back to January. This is 7 months worth of just long extended downtrend price action that's just getting annoying to deal with. But I want you guys to realize that this is what our current weekly setup looks like. So for anyone getting a little bit bearish here or maybe a little bit negative, I want you guys to realize where we're at right now. Number one, we are in the blue zone, which is the demand zone anyways. We're looking at this demand zone being tapped once we hit the red zone up here, which is all resistance. We are in a significant downtrend. Typically, these start to really squeeze within a wedge before they, really go crazy. And just for reference, this is what I mean. So typically in a extended, wedge where the price action looked like this right before it had a jump, we start to kind of have this, it's almost a bull flag, in a sense, but typically we squeeze within this wedge right before we just go crazy to the upside and break over the previous highs. I do suspect that that's going to be the same situation here as well. The question is, how low do we go? Mainly, I would love for us to maintain the highs here, going all the way back to April, all the way through about like the middle of May. And these highs were right around this like 7.5 cent zone. But we already tapped close to that without any major impulse move, which tells me we could potentially retest the support going back to the end of December of last year, as well as some of the support going back to April and May of this year as well, and also resistance going back to March. And that would be around roughly 7 cents. So this is where I would be looking at a strong impulse move off of, the lows of XDC. I don't think that today's price is that bad to average into XDC at, especially considering the fact that most of the altcoin market looks very similar. I do suspect that we bounce back in a big way, especially going into September. So right now, I'm definitely watching for a big impulse move on the XDC chart. Beyond that, though, you guys already know from some of my previous videos, I've been talking about how XDC is starting to get a lot of attention on it now. Even recently with 21 shares, we do have here 21 shares. Curious about what sets the XDC network apart. We've broken down some of the most common questions into simple, clear answers. Swipe through our latest carousel of, insights to get the insights you need. So again, when we look at this, this is 21 shares, a very large player in the space. I know that they only have about 22,000 followers, but they are a big ETP provider, and XDC is one of those ETPs that they do provide. And now we're starting to see recognition of XDC and them actually teaching people about what XDC is doing and how XDC is operating within the space, but also even outside of the space with industries like trade finance. So I love to see this. I think that this is incredible as well to see. We're finally getting a lot of recognition on XDC, and we could also see that just by the social growth and activity around XDC, which we love to see. Beyond that, though, let's go over here real quick to some of the recent announcements. So we recently talked about the Vert Capital move. That was $1 billion in RWAs to be tokenized on the XDC network. Now, we do know that they've been tokenizing with XRP quite a bit recently, which I think it's like 150 million or $200 million worth of RWAs on XRP. This is definitely a big one to watch because this is corporate debt, this is agribusiness, and even credit products that they will be bringing on chain onto the XDC network. Now, we have yet to see this value hit the XDC network, as you guys can even see over here. Currently speaking, there's really not a lot of RWA value tied to XDC. It's only about 23.5 million, and this has been dropping quite a bit since going all the way back to roughly the middle of May, where we did have about 28.5 million dollars tied to it. Now, on top of that, we also are still waiting for that $500 million from Leaky. I mean, listen, the 90-day period was roughly July. We have yet to actually see this hit the XDC network. So we're still waiting on a few things here. We've always talked about RWA tokenization being a bit of an obstacle when it comes to regulatory discrepancies, right? Because they still have to go through the regulatory process, and there could be a lot of obstacles there, which could be holding up a lot of this value to be hitting the actual chain itself. But I do suspect that value will start to hit XDC over the course of the next couple months. So I'm definitely watching closely for this value on chain to drastically rise. We haven't seen it yet, but I do think that we will get there. Now, beyond that, let's talk about the big news today that dropped, and this was more so yesterday, but guys, USDC, one of the largest stablecoins in this market, Milestone, USDC, and CCTP V2 are coming to the XDC network. This milestone strengthens XDC's position in the global tokenization and settlement landscape. With a 68 billion plus market cap, USDC is designed to maintain a stable value and bring trusted liquidity and seamless settlement to DeFi protocols, trade finance solutions, and institutional grade applications. Powered by CCTP V2, USDC will move natively across supported chains with no wrapped or bridged assets, providing one-to-one capital efficiency. A regulated, fully reserved stablecoin now meets XDC's low-cost, scalable, and enterprise-ready blockchain. The future of real-world adoption just got stronger. Now, I love this, and the reason why I love this is because let's go back to XDC. Okay, there is $23.5 million on XDC. The stablecoin market cap, however, is only $14 million. This tells me that there's not enough liquidity on the XDC network tied back to stablecoins to support RWA tokenization at scale. We need more value in stablecoins on XDC and more opportunity as well for stablecoins on XDC to support more scalable tokenized initiatives. This is where I do see a large portion of RWA value really, I would say, rising on XDC once we start to see that stablecoin market cap rising as well. And the reason why I say that is because take a quick look at just Ethereum, for an example, right? $7.57 billion worth of RWA value tied to it. But look at the stablecoin market cap, $154 billion. This is a very liquid ecosystem where we could see these types of use cases and these types of values really scaling and rising drastically. And this is something that I've always mentioned even with XRP, right? Like XRP has $306 million tied to it in tokenized value, 86.5 million in stablecoin market cap. We wouldn't have gotten to this point without ROUSD, right? But the main thing that I'm looking at here is everyone always asks like why Ethereum is like the main choice here. It's because of how liquid it is when it comes to stablecoin value tied to it. So once we start to see more stablecoins launching on these additional networks, like even XDC, which we just saw one of the largest ones launch on it, this will power and support new tokenized value hitting the network, as well as additional use cases as well. Now, we did see the announcement from USDC themselves. USDC is coming to, the XDC network soon in collaboration with the XDC Foundation. What this means for you: trusted digital dollars backed one-to-one by US dollars, access to XDC apps and services for trade finance, RWA settlement, and DeFi, as well as more. Use USDC to pay, trade, or settle tokenized assets as well. We also have over here from Circle They kind of just said the same exact thing here, but they just announced it. And again, you can see how many eyes are on XDC just by this announcement. 262,000 views, 4.1K likes. I mean, guys, there's a lot of eyes watching XDC now. But also, talking more so about some of the announcements here, this is from the XDC Foundation themselves. This was the breakdown of it. Obviously, again, they're telling us about the DeFi ecosystem, the tokenization landscape as well, and how a fully reserved stablecoin provides that instant settlement, that stable value, that security, that scalable liquidity that is needed to support trade finance and even institutional grade applications because of that improved liquidity, that reduced counterparty risk, and even a widely adopted yet seamless settlement process, which Circle's providing even with CCTP. So I love this. I think that this is incredible, and this is going to allow the ecosystem around XDC to grow rapidly. And even when we go over to the Circle announcement, we could actually see the benefits here as well. We could see all the benefits, which we just went over a bit, but we could also see what this does for developers. Developers will be able to enable users to move USDC securely between XDC Network and supported blockchains with one-to-one capital efficiency, build apps with seamless cross-chain onboarding, swaps, purchases, and treasury management. And then the key use cases that we're looking at here is USDC powering key financial applications on the XDC network, such as global trade finance, settle tokenized invoices, letters of credit, and other trade instruments, RWA tokenization, issue and exchange tokenized assets such as treasuries, private credit, and real estate. Enterprise payments enable fast, low-cost B2B and cross-border transactions. This is all now going to be enabled and scaled in a big way on XDC. I'm so excited about this. And by the way, one thing that I want you guys to realize is a lot of these announcements like this, the best way to really assume that something big is going to happen, at some point in time, is just looking back at some of the announcements with these types of names. For an example, SBI and Circle. On August 22nd, SBI invested $50 million into Circle and established a joint venture to advance USDC in Japan. The reason why I bring this up is because we look back at some of the connections with XDC, right? XDC back in May of 2023 partnered up with SBI Japan. This was a huge one, and this was in part with that SBI XDC Network APAC that they, really kind of came together to really, launch, which, by the way, this is a big one around the Japanese market. This is also with R3, if you guys do know about that, right? Back in June of 2024, XDC Network and R3 recorded complete inter-business settlement POC. That's because of this announcement here, because if you look at this, we have furthermore, as a first project after the establishment of the joint venture, they have started a proof of concept experiment that connects the XDC network, the Corda platform provided by SBI R3 Japan, and the Corda bridge provided by Impel Global. Now, some of this, like Impel Global, for an example, is no longer a thing. They've actually changed this up a bit, but for the most part, the main thing that I'm looking at here is all those connections back to SBI and what SBI has been doing. Circle's obviously a big supporter of almost everything around crypto. They want everything around crypto to be successful because, in part with that, it means that they're successful as well. And of course, with Circle, growing the USDC market in a big way, it also means that they're growing USDC in general, which if we go back to stablecoins, USDC has currently $66.8 billion tied to it. And this continues to grow more and more and more. It's up almost 8% in the last 30 days. You can see how it's growing. This is great to see. Monthly transfer volume just surpassed over $1.6 trillion. So again, this is a very liquid stablecoin, very trustworthy stablecoin as well. And I love the fact that it's now hitting the XDC network. Now, how much value can we assume is going to be tied to XDC from this? Well, we don't really know, all right? And it's going to be almost impossible to assume how much value will be tied to XDC. It all goes hand in hand with, the type of use cases, how fast they could scale, the type of value that will be tied to XDC as well. Right now, XDC is a small fish in a big sea. And the reason why I say that is not me to really kind of belittle XDC, but the main thing here is XDC has about $23 million tied to it in RWA value. It should have a lot more by this point, especially with all of those announcements. So we're still waiting for something big to happen where we could track it on chain. But the good news here is is that it feels as though XDC is networking with some very big players to make sure that all the puzzle pieces are in place to really get to that point where XDC is a top dog around tokenization, DeFi use cases. Trade finance is already locked in my opinion. But all of these other use cases, we're still waiting to really see scale on XDC. But I think that now with this announcement, we're going to see that. And remember, XDC already has, two stablecoins tied to it, which is the Phantom Dollar as well as the Stasis Euro as well. So now with USDC, this is going to be an additional US dollar stablecoin, which is probably going to scale pretty fast. I mean, almost any USD stablecoin is going to scale fast in the coming weeks, especially with even Clarity, right? The Clarity Act is going to be big to support this market. So let's see what happens. I'm going to be watching this closely. I'll keep you guys posted if I see anything crazy. But for right now, the main thing to look at and really focus on is all of the moves that XDC is making right now. And it feels as though it's kind of going overlooked and it's undercover at this point because, again, the value, everyone's looking at the chart and they're like, all right, well, whatever, this is kind of boring. I don't really care about anything until the price action is there. But remember what I've always said, all of this good news is just pressure behind the price action, just waiting to erupt. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like.